Welcome to China News TV. Slovakia's Deputy Speaker of Parliament asserted, Americans might believe that blowing the whistle will make us dance, but that era has ended. Furthermore, former US diplomat Fu Limin highlighted that Ukraine has forfeited its bargaining power. The US's efforts to sway other countries against China and Russia have backfired. The Taiwan regional leader election concluded on January 13th. Earlier predictions left no suspense in the victory of the Democratic Progressive Party's Ching-te. This self-proclaimed pragmatic supporter of Taiwan independence has become the most Taiwan independence-leaning leader in Taiwan since Lee Teng-hui. This suggests that the election result is the most perilous for China and the US since 1995. Without control over their differences, there is a risk of matters spiraling out of control. Now, turning to an unprecedented event, a small European country openly challenging the United States. The protagonist this time is Slovakia. On January 11th, Slovakia's Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Brulak, sent a stern message to the US ambassador to Slovakia on his Telegram channel. The US ambassador requested Slovakia to condemn Russia's use of weapons from North Korea, but Slovakia refused. Brulak stated that the US must accept the reality that Slovakia is no longer an American colony. This event traces back to January 9th when 47 countries, including the US, jointly declared that Russia had launched ballistic missiles supplied by North Korea at Ukraine. The statement strongly condemned Russia and called for an immediate halt to any activities violating UN Security Council resolutions by Russia and North Korea. Apart from the US, most signatory countries were European, including US treaty allies South Korea and Japan. TASR news agency pointed out that Slovakia and Hungary were the only two EU countries that did not sign this joint statement. Slovakia's foreign minister, Branar, stated that this was because the Slovak government believed the accusations lacked evidence. We always stand on the side of compliance with international law and UN Security Council sanctions, but we will not act solely based on allegations without evidence. We refuse to accept a document that we cannot comment on and also reject supporting something without relevant evidence. The US ambassador to Slovakia apparently continued to pressure Slovakia to join the condemnation of Russia, facing criticism from Slovakia's Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Brulak. Brulak stated on the Telegram social media platform, Americans might hope that we will join the ranks condemning Russia's use of North Korean missiles, but they haven't provided any evidence. We vividly remember the despicable lies the US spread to the world about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq just because they wanted to attack a sovereign country. Brulak asserted that the US ambassador must accept the reality that Slovakia is no longer an American colony. He wrote, Americans might naively think that by blowing the whistle, we will jump up. Well, that era has passed. Just because Americans want this statement is not enough. Just because other EU countries except Hungary have signed it is not enough. Brulak also expressed pride in the current Slovak government led by sovereign patriots. We are a sovereign government, rock solid, and I sincerely welcome the US ambassador. Welcome to the land of freedom. This Slovak Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who launched a verbal attack against the US, clearly has the support of the entire Slovak government. In September of the previous year, the left-wing Direction, Social Democracy Party-led government won the election with 23% of the vote. As they failed to obtain a majority in the National Council, the Direction Party subsequently formed a ruling coalition with the Progressive Slovakia and the Slovak National Party. In October of the same year, the leader of the Direction Party, Pellegrini, became the Prime Minister of Slovakia for the fourth time. Pellegrini's victory is considered a dramatic shift in the country's foreign policy and may disrupt the fragile unity of the EU and NATO. Shortly after taking office, Pellegrini pushed for Slovakia to end official military aid to Ukraine. On January 10th, Pellegrini explicitly supported the position of the Deputy Speaker, emphasizing that the era of blindly accepting any demands from abroad without consideration is over. Slovakia will act as a sovereign country from now on. Pellegrini said, the situation in Ukraine cannot be resolved by military means, only through political means. In an article published in the Slovak daily Pravda, Pellegrini also called the West's attempt to undermine Russia's economy a strategic failure and called for stable relations between the EU and Russia, emphasizing that Russia also needs the security of the EU. In the article, Pellegrini once again criticized Western military aid to Ukraine, stating that Ukraine does not have the ability to counterattack meaningfully, and the Western Ukrainian strategy has failed, and military aid to Ukraine is futile waste. Summing up what happened in Slovakia, we can draw the following points. First, Slovakia is the second European country, after Hungary, to oppose providing military aid to Ukraine. Second, the Prime Minister of Slovakia explicitly pointed out a fact that the West is unwilling to admit: the Western strategy towards Ukraine has failed. Third, the Deputy Speaker of Slovakia voiced many thoughts deep within the hearts of small countries. Americans might think that by blowing the whistle, we will dance. Well, that era has ended. Additionally, senior American politicians have also come forward to clearly state the harsh reality that Ukraine is facing. Former U.S. Ambassador to China and chief interpreter during the Nixon visit, Fu Limin, published an article on the UK news website Unheard on January 4, titled "Political Propaganda Has Destroyed Ukraine." Fu Limin pointed out that the US media's coverage of the Ukraine war did not tell the truth, leaving people uninformed about the reality. Despite thousands of people losing their lives in the Ukraine war, the propaganda machines in Brussels, Kyiv, London, Moscow, and Washington worked tirelessly to ensure people believe the narrative they want them to believe, condemning those who question it. For Ukraine, this is disastrous. Fu Limin pointed out that all parties made many misjudgments about the Ukraine war, leading to its outbreak and continuation. The US believed that Russia's demand for Ukraine to remain neutral by threatening war was just a bluff, and revealing and publicly vilifying Russia's war plans could scare them away. Russia assumed that the US would prefer negotiations over the risk of war and that Ukraine hoped the West would protect their country. Fu Limin believes that when cheers replace objective reporting, and governments indulge in their political propaganda rather than the truth happening on the battlefield, Western democratic countries will fail. He also listed the huge costs paid by all parties in the war without achieving any goals. Regarding Ukraine, since the start of the proxy war between the US and Russia in February 2022, the exact number of casualties on the Ukrainian side is not known, but it has certainly reached hundreds of thousands. The intensity of the unprecedented information war has obscured specific casualty figures. At least until last summer, 10% of Ukraine's total population had joined the armed forces, and 78% of Ukrainians had friends or family members wounded on the battlefield. It is estimated that currently 20,000 to 50,000 Ukrainians have undergone amputation due to the war. As a point of reference, during World War I, only 41,000 Britons were forced to undergo amputation, and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq led to fewer than 2,000 US veterans undergoing amputation. This shows the immense cost that the Ukrainian people are paying for the war. In addition, Fu Limin also pointed out that Ukraine's military, in the face of Russia's aggression, lacks well-trained soldiers, and the equipment is rather outdated. Western military aid to Ukraine has not changed the situation, and Ukraine is in a military predicament. On the international stage, Fu Limin believes that Ukraine has lost its bargaining power. Although some Western countries claim to support Ukraine, they have not provided sufficient support in actual actions, leaving Ukraine isolated. This also reflects Ukraine's real dilemma in international relations. Furthermore, Slovakia's attitude has also attracted attention. Slovakia refused to sign the anti-Russian statement, expressing dissatisfaction with the US and insistence on independent decision-making. The Slovak government believes that the accusations against Russia by the West lack evidence and is unwilling to support such statements without sufficient evidence. This indicates that some small countries in international affairs are increasingly emphasizing sovereignty and independence, and are unwilling to be influenced by major powers. Overall, this series of events reflects some critical issues in current international politics, including power struggles between major countries, the rise of autonomy in small countries, and the international community's response to war and conflict. In this context, understanding the positions and motivations of all parties and realizing the tremendous impact of war on ordinary people and countries are crucial.